Welcome back to From the Bookshelf for another book club episode. We are once again talking about City of Bones. This week, we will be looking at chapters 18 and 19. We're finally getting down to the home stretch here. Not too many left of this before we get to the next book. So before we get started, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel to get notified for any new episodes that come out for the book club series, as well as our weekly downloads or anything else new we got going on the channel. Let's jump right in. Chapter 18, The Mortal Cup. We're going to get started on page 325. So Clary just figured out where the Mortal Cup is, and she's going to Jace's room to tell him, and Clary is at his bedroom door, and it says Clary glanced past him into his bedroom. It didn't look like there was anyone else in there, to her relief. Look, can I come in? I want to show you something. So it didn't look like there was anyone else in there. Oh, what a relief. Who was gonna be in there? Like, who is gonna be in there? Like, I feel like this is just interesting because she knows that the only people at the Institute are the Lightwoods and Hodge, right? So Jace, the Lightwoods, and Hodge. So that's basically the only girl in that situation is Isabel, which we've firmly established is essentially his sister. So who is going to be in there for you to need to feel relief for that there's no one in there? I don't know. I just found that interesting. Not really a huge deal. Just kind of like, I just want to know what Clary's thinking. Like, what's going through her head? Is this just like, Clary being a little bit jealous of the fact that he might be talking to another girl? What other girl? I don't know. So in this, they're talking about Valentine and his men when Jocelyn's mother and finding the cup. It says, I mean, if they found it, maybe they would have left her alone. If all they wanted was the cup, they would have killed her, Clary, Jace said. She knew he was telling the truth. These are the same men who killed my father. The only reason she may still be alive now is that they can't find the cup. Be glad she hid it so well. So, yes, there's that. They're Valentine's men, right? They don't really care about other people. They're murderous and they're kind of evil. Like, especially these ones, as Blackwell and Pangborn, they're just kind of like, I can't think of the word, my brain isn't working. They're followers, they just do what they're told, but they're very like brutal about it, like the way they attacked Luke and the way they like destroyed Clary's apartment when they were looking for the cup and attacking her mother. It's just like, yes, they would 100% like kill without thought. But we also have to consider the fact that Jocelyn was Valentine's wife at one point. Like, even if she betrayed him and left him, took the cup, like, I almost feel like, would he just send somebody else to like kill her? You think he wouldn't like talk to her or like, maybe handle her in person in a sense? I don't know. It's just honestly, I don't know what I'm trying to get at, but let's just move on. So we're looking at page 331. So Clary says, Clary said, most psychologists agree that hostility is really just sublimated sexual attraction. Ah, said Jace blithely. That might explain why I so often run into people who dislike me. I don't dislike you, said Alec quickly. That is because we share a brotherly affection, said Jace, standing over the desk. So, one, I'm pretty sure people dislike you for more than just being attracted to you. Probably because you're an overbearing jerk at times. You run your mouth and don't know when to like shut it. A lot of reason. But yeah, I'm pretty sure people dislike you for more than just them being attracted to you. It probably has a lot to do with what comes out of your mouth and the way you act. So let's move on to page 338. So in this, Alec is borrowing his bandmate Eric's van to take the Lightwoods, Jace, and Clary over to her mother's to see Madame Dorothea about the cup. That's a nice bow, said Simon with a nod toward Eric. That's a nice bow, said Simon with a nod toward Alec. Alec blinked, rain running off his eyelashes. Do you know much about archery? He asked in a tone that suggested he doubted it. I did archery at camp, said Simon, 6 years running. The response to this was 3 blank stares and a supportive smile from Clary, which Simon ignored. So here's Simon saying, yeah, I have experience with a bow. Like, nice bow. I know a lot about it. I've been using it for 6 years. Probably nearly as much time as Alec has been using a bow. And yet, Alec just looks at him like, so mundane? Who cares? It's very judgmental. Like, all this judgment from the Lightwoods. Even Jace. Jace is a part of that too. He's mostly a Lightwood. But yeah, there's just like, well, the mundane can use a bow. Well, so what? He's just a mundane. That doesn't mean nothing. It means something. You just wait. He's gonna use that bow and he's gonna show you all. But let's move on. So 347. So Clary and Jace are trying to tell Madame Dorothea that she has the Mortal Cup, but she doesn't know it. So she's like, I don't have it. And she's getting kind of upset. Jace said, not exactly, said Jace. I meant that you have it. Dorothea's mouth snapped shut. That's not funny, she said so sharply that Clary became worried that this was all going horribly. Why did Jace always have to antagonize everyone? You do have it, Clary interrupted hurriedly, but not... And she stops. So here Jace is trying to explain, well, I don't have it on. It's actually you have it. But she interrupts him and kind of like snaps at him. I don't have it. I don't have it. Stop. You know, she's just getting mad at him for saying that she has it. And she does. She just doesn't realize it. And Clary's thinking, why does he have to antagonize people? How is he antagonizing people? All he did was say that she had the cup. That's literally all he said. How is that being antagonistic? So he just has to open his mouth to antagonize someone? I don't know. It just seems like kind of like a harsh reaction to him just stating the fact that Dorothea has the cup when we all know she has the cup. I don't know, Clary. Like, throwing words around when you clearly aren't using them correctly. So let's move on to page 350. Or sorry, 348. So here we have Clary is looking for the tarot card that has the cup in it. Now she had not been able to before. She felt the power from the runes painted on the backs pulsing through the tips of her fingers. She found the Ace of Cups by touch and pulled it out, setting the rest of the cards back down on the table. So I find it interesting that all of a sudden she feels the runes on the cards. She had these tarot cards in her hand previously, and she didn't feel this. She didn't feel any of this. So why all of a sudden is she feeling it now when there's really not much different in her situation? She has just as much clarity around her. Her sight hasn't like expanded or grown since the last time. So why could she not feel the runes then, but she can feel them now? It just seems kind of odd that all of a sudden, now that she's specifically looking for this card, that she can all of a sudden feel it. I don't know. That's just a thought on that. So we are going to move on to chapter 19, Abaddon. We're going to start on page 350. So they get the cup out of the tarot card, and Dorothea is telling them that the cup is damaged. And she's saying, let me see the card, I'll show you. And then suddenly Jace was between them, his hand hovering near the sword at his waist. No offense, he said calmly, but nobody touches the mortal cup except us. Dorothea looked at him for a moment, and that the same strange blankness returned to her eyes. Now she said, let's not be hasty. Valentine would be displeased if anything were to happen to this cup. So is this just Jace being judgmental and a shadow hunter saying like, nobody touches this heirloom artifact of the shadow hunters except shadow hunters? Or is it like he's seeing this sense that this is weird? How does she know that the cup's damaged? She didn't even know she had the cup, which means she's probably never seen the cup before. How could she know it was damaged? So is Jace being judgy? Or does he realize something's wrong because she knows that it's damaged? Or a little bit of both? I think it might be a little bit of both. I think Jace might be like, I'm a shadow hunter. This is a shadow hunter artifact. Shouldn't just let anybody touch it. But then again, it is a little weird that she's like, oh, it's damaged. How would you know it's damaged? You don't know. You've never seen it before. You've never held it before. You've never used it before. You don't know anything about it. Except the fact that Valentine wants it. Except the fact that there's something going on that's about to happen. Let's move on to page 356. So, huge battle between the Greater Demon of Abaddon, which we just found out was possessing Madame Dorothea, and that's why she was being all weird. But so, the Shadow Hunters are failing miserably, and in comes Simon. So, he picks up Alec's fallen bow and arrow, and the arrow sprang free. It made a hot buzzing sound like a huge bumblebee as it shot over Abaddon's head, plunged toward the roof, and shattered the skylight. Dirty black glass fell like rain, and through the broken pane streamed sunlight, quantities of sunlight, great golden bars of it stabbing downward and flooding the foyer with light. The light of which destroys Abaddon and sends him back to the dimension he came from. But in this, we see Simon the hero. Simon, like, saves the day. Simon comes in, he takes that bow and arrow, and he's like, see, I can do more. I can fire this thing. I know how to use it. I can fight. You're just being jerks over here, and I saved all your asses. That's what Simon does. I love that. Simon is like, he knows this mundane. He's like mundane of mundanes, and he just like steps into this demon battle, and he's like, I'm gonna save everyone, and he does. Let's move to page 360. So here Clary is thinking about how Simon just saved the day, and she thinks to herself, I knew it was there, Clary thought. I should have acted on it. Even if I didn't have a bow and arrow like Simon, I could have thrown something at it or told Jace about it. She felt stupid and useless and thick, as though her head were full of cotton. The truth was that she'd been too frightened to think straight. And it's like, why are you comparing yourself? She's always comparing herself and belittling herself and talking down to herself. It's like, you don't need to be perfect. Like, you're in the middle of a situation getting attacked by a literal greater demon, like the worst kind of demon out there, and no one expects you to think of everything. Like, Jace didn't do it, the Lightwoods didn't do it. Like, Simon came in and saved the day. That doesn't mean you've done something wrong or that you should have done more. Like, in the middle of a fight like that, you can't be expected to think of everything and remember everything. It's like your brain is working so fast and trying to like comprehend what's going on and figure out what you need to do, that it's just like things are moving too quickly for you to think of stuff like that. And it drives me crazy that Clary is always comparing herself to someone else like this and like thinking so little of herself, because she's such an amazing character when she's not thinking like this. And it's just like, she just needs to realize who she is and what she's capable of and kind of stop looking down on that. And I think when she starts to realize that, she starts to, you know, grow as a character. Next, right? Let's move on. So let's move on to page 363. So we're talking a little bit about religion, and Jace says this. I may not believe in sin, he said, but I do feel guilt. We shadow hunters live by a code, and that code isn't flexible. Honor, fault, penance, those are real to us, and they have nothing to do with religion and everything to do with who we are. So, I don't know why this like strikes me, but Jace says he doesn't believe in sin. Sin, which is usually equated with religion, right? But sin is basically just another word for doing something wrong. Like when you commit a sin, you're committing, I don't know, you're committing a crime, you're committing an act that's wrong, that's not right, that you shouldn't be doing. So clearly he believes in that. He believes in right and wrong. So, I mean, sin is just a way of using that word, like doing something wrong, committing something wrong against someone else in a way that equates to religion. So while he doesn't necessarily believe in religion and all of that, he believes in right and wrong. So, I mean, it just feels like he's arguing semantics, because that's essentially what it is. Let's move on to page 365. In this, Jace is bringing the mortal cup, or Jace and Clary are bringing the mortal cup to Hodge. And Hodge says this, "You look so much like him." "Like who?" said Jace in astonishment. He had clearly never heard Hodge talk this way before. "Like your father," Hodge said, and raised his eyes to where Hugo, Blackwing stirring the humid air, hovered just overhead. So I find this interesting because Hodge had previously said earlier in the book that Jace didn't look like Michael Wayland, who they believe to be his father. He looks like his mother. And now he's saying he doesn't look like his mother, he looks like his father. And the part that's interesting, a little bit of a spoiler here, not just for this book, but the rest, the next two books in the first half of the Mortal Instruments. Spoiler alert, move on to the next if you don't want to be spoiled. But here, I think what we're supposed to be inferred from his "you look like your father" is, oh, you look like Valentine, right? Because we find out at the end of this book that Valentine is Jace's father. But the spoiler part is not that he's his father, but that he's actually not his father. So Hodge is aware of Jace's true parentage from the very beginning, and that not that it's Valentine, but that it's Stephen Herondale. So Hodge knows who Jace's real father is, and I'm just having a hard time figuring out if he's talking about him looking like his father as he looks like Valentine, or if he looks like Stephen. Because, I mean, in this moment of having this discussion, he's about to call Valentine to come give him the cup. So he's clearly thinking about Valentine. Valentine is like the main part of what he's thinking of and what he's talking about. So it's heavily implied that he's saying Jace looks like Valentine. He's not related to Valentine in any way whatsoever, so Jace does not look like Valentine. What we know from future books is that a lot of his features and the way he looks come from the Herondale line, family line. From like Will Herondale from the Clockwork series, The Infernal Devices. So he doesn't look like Valentine. He does get his looks from Stephen Herondale, which was his actual father. So what is Hodge talking about right here? Like, anybody reading it for the first time first thinks, oh, he's talking about Michael, but didn't he already say he didn't look like Michael? But then when we find out in a few more chapters that Valentine's his father, like, oh, so he's saying he looks like Valentine. But then we realize he doesn't look like Valentine because Valentine is not his father. So what in the literal hell is Hodge actually trying to say? Because if you really think about it, if you've read the books and you really think about it, it doesn't make any sense. So if you can figure out what the sense is, what he's trying to say, please comment below. Let me know, because as far as I can tell, he's implying something that's not true and that makes no sense for the reader or for Jace. Like, obviously he's not gonna really probably come back to think of this moment, but if he were, he'd be like, why did he say I look like Valentine? I'm not related to Valentine. It's just, you might pick up his mannerisms because you raised him for 10 years, but you don't look like a person just because they raised you. Let's move on to page 368. So Hodge has basically just betrayed everybody at the Institute to Valentine. He's given him the cup. He's given him Jace. All of that kind of stuff, right? Hodge's face worked. It is not easy to betray what you believe in, those who trust you. Do you mean the Lightwoods or their children? Both, said Hodge. Ah, the Lightwoods. Valentine reached out with a hand and caressed the brass globe that stood on the desk, his long fingers tracing the outlines of continents and seas. But what do you owe them, really? Yours is the punishment that should have been theirs. If they had not had such high connections in the clave, they would have been cursed along with you. So he's basically telling Hodge that he shouldn't have any loyalty to Lightwoods because they didn't get cursed like he did because they knew people high up in the clave, people who had high positions. But I think while Hodge might not feel that loyalty towards Maris and Robert Lightwood, the Lightwood parents that he grew up with, he practically was in a situation to where he raised the Lightwood children. You know, he was there from like day one with Alec and Isabel and Max, and I truly think actually cares about them and truly does love them in a way. And he does feel this guilt for betraying them. I truly believe that, and we'll actually see that in a point coming up. But I really think this is hard for him. People just hate Hodge because, oh, he betrayed them. He, you know, turned the cup over to Valentine. But it's like, he was put in this horrible situation, cursed in a way that no one else was. And he wasn't the only one, you know, who was a part of the circle. But he was the only one cursed the way he was, the one who got it worse. And he was put in a position where he couldn't ever leave the Institute at all. And he just wanted his life back. And he was forced to make a horrible decision. And he did. But that's not to say it was right. But I don't think it's fair to say he's evil because he made that bad decision. I think he does feel bad for betraying the Lightwood kids, Alec and Isabel, in this situation, because I think he really does care about them. Let's move on to page 369, where we can see some of the proof of what I've just been talking about. So Hodge and Valentine are talking about Maris and Robert, you know, making this deal with the clave and taking this deal so that they kind of still have some freedom. They can go back to Idris and stuff like that on special occasions. And Hodge says, they did what anyone would do. You would not have done it. I would not have done it, to let a friend suffer in my place. And surely it must engender some bitterness in you, Starkweather, to know that they so easily left this fate to you. Hodge's shoulders shook. But it is not the children's fault. They have done nothing. I never knew you to be so fond of children, Starkweather. So here we see Valentine saying, but you wouldn't have betrayed them like that. You wouldn't have stepped aside to let somebody else be cursed in your place. And Valentine even says, I wouldn't have. We'll ignore that because Valentine would have. He would have done a lot worse. And we've seen him do a lot worse. And we know he's done a lot worse. So, I mean, that's just Valentine talking. But we see this part where Hodge says, but the children do anything. It's not the children's fault. They shouldn't be punished for their parents' mistakes. And I think that kind of shows his feelings for them and that he does care about them. So Valentine is telling Hodge that betrayal is never pretty, but to betray a child, that's a double-edged betrayal, don't you think? You won't hurt him. You swore you wouldn't hurt him. So they're talking about Jace, because Valentine is going to take Jace, and he's saying, oh, betraying a child, that's like twice as horrible. It's like, it's a bit hypocritical of you, Valentine. You've betrayed so many people. You betrayed your own child several times, more than one of them. It's like you've betrayed other children. It's like, you don't care about anybody. Not even your own children. Yet here you are being like, oh, it's just horrible of you, Hodge, betraying these kids you care about. It's like, shut up. Just shut up. Yeah? And then on page 370, Hodge says to Valentine about Jace and the cup. He says, tell me you won't hurt him and I'll give it to you. He says, Valentine, tell me you won't hurt Jace and I'll give you the cup. So clearly he cares about the kids, like the Lightwoods and Jace. He cares about them. He's basically saying, promise me you won't hurt Jace and you can have the cup. I don't care. So, yeah, I think that's obvious how he feels. Okay, so then we have this another kind of ambiguous and confusing line. This one from Valentine. Valentine says this about Jace. He'll be with his father soon, said Valentine, looking down at Jace's white face. Where he belongs. Hodge flinched. Valentine turned away from him and walked back through the shimmering curtain of air that he had come through. So Valentine says to Hodge, Jace will be with his father soon, where he belongs. So we have this moment again with the spoilers for the end of City of Glass, which is the third book. So be warned, skip ahead if you don't want to hear it. But so is Valentine implying that he'll be with his father soon, in the sense that Valentine's his father, that, you know, Valentine raised him for 10 years, so he's his father, Jace believes he's his father? Is that what he means by he'll be with his father soon? But in the sense that both Valentine and Hodge know who his real father is, who is dead. So, I mean, what is he saying? Clary believes that he's saying he's going to be dead soon because Michael Whalen's dead. But then it's like, oh, but that's not what he meant. He just meant he's going to be with Valentine because Valentine's his father. So that's what it'll be. But as it turns out, Clary was in a sense right that his father is dead. So I don't know. It just seems kind of strange that he says that. It kind of like a confusing little turn of thoughts, because his father's dead. Wait, his father's not dead. Wait, his father really is dead. So what is he saying? I mean, clearly he's not going to kill him. Clearly he's going to continue pretending Jace is his son for 2 more books. But I don't know. He knows who his father is. He knows his father is dead. So it's just an interesting statement to actually think about that. That's it for this episode. I will see you again next week with a little bit more of City of Bones. We are so close to being done, guys. I think there is maybe 3 more episodes to go along with this book, and then we'll be moving on to a new book to talk about in our book club. So go ahead and comment below your thoughts and opinions on what we talked about today. If I missed anything, go ahead and comment that as well, and we can talk about it. And I'll see you next time.